With the June 2026 BTO launch just around the corner, some of you probably already start picking location and thinking which town you want to apply to. Some of the two biggest heavyweights this time around are Bishan and Ang Mo Kio. Both are mature estates and super popular, and both have the potential to be $1 million resale flats producer in the future. But which town should you pick? Since all three projects in Bishan and Ang Mo Kio will be subjected to the 10-year MOP, remember that you're planning for the long term, and this is not just about the flat, but it's also about how your daily life will look like for the next 10 to 20 years. But before we dive in, let's remind ourselves about a very important HDB rule, which is you can only apply for the town and flat type, but not to a specific project. So for example, in Ang Mo Kio, there are two different sites, which is in Ang Mo Kio Avenue 1 and Avenue 2. If let's say you apply for 4-room flat in Ang Mo Kio, and then depending on your queue number, you can pick from either site as long as units are still available. But Bishan in this round only has one project, so what you see is what you get. Now let's do a comparison side by side. The first one would be the size of the project itself. So Bishan BTO is a mega project with 1,210 units of 2-room flexi and 4-room flats. It's a very high-profile project, which means that the competition will be very fierce, but it will give you a massive community because of the size of the project. The size of the project matters, especially if you want to sell your flat in the future, because a lot of neighbors, which also means there will be a lot of resale benchmark for you to compare against, and typically it would be easier to ask for higher price later on. So for Ang Mo Kio, in total there will be 1,050 units split across two sites. In other words, if you apply to Ang Mo Kio, you would need to be flexible regardless which project you might be able to secure. Now let's talk about connectivity. For Bishan BTO, you will be within walking distance to Marymount MRT station, which is about 550 meters away according to Google Maps. This is very important because as you know, most people prefer to live within walking distance to a major MRT station. Living here, you would be only one stop away from Bishan and also quite close to Caldecott. It's perfect for those working in One North, Paya Lebar, or even in the CBD area. Now, for both sites at Ang Mo Kio, if we look at the map, the nearest MRT station for both of these sites is Mayflower MRT station. So, for the site at Ang Mo Kio Avenue 1 is about 1 kilometer away, so not really within walking distance, and you would just have to take a feeder bus. But the one at Ang Mo Kio Avenue 2, which is the ex-Kebun Baru school site, it is about 850 meters away from Mayflower MRT station. However, one of the viewers mentioned that actually you can shortcut and walk under the existing HDB blocks, so you can go to Mayflower MRT station faster. Now let's talk about estimated price. Because these projects in Bishan and Ang Mo Kio will be classified as Prime and Plus, they come with higher market subsidies. So my guess is the project at Bishan will be tagged as Prime, while the two projects at Ang Mo Kio will be categorized as Plus. That is my prediction for now. This makes the entry price more accessible, though it does trigger the 10-year MOP and the subsidy clawback upon resale. So here is the estimated pricing breakdown for all flat types offered in these two towns based on historical data and past prices of nearby BTO projects. Specifically for 3-room flat, note that Bishan BTO is not offering 3-room flats in this launch. If you specifically need a 3-room flat in a central mature estate, then the option would be Ang Mo Kio Avenue 2. On the other hand, for 2-room flexi, it is only being offered at Ang Mo Kio Avenue 1 and also Bishan BTO if we compare between these two towns. But the site at Ang Mo Kio Avenue 2 doesn't have any 2-room flexi available. Don't forget that your final out-of-pocket cost could be much lower depending on your eligibility for different grants that the government is offering. So for example, for families, you can get enhanced CPF housing grant up to $120,000, while single can receive up to $60,000 in grants. But overall, I do think that the Bishan BTO price will be slightly higher versus the Ang Mo Kio projects. Now let's talk about the potential resale value. In terms of potential resale value, Bishan Lakeview is arguably the crown jewel of this launch. Its strongest selling point is being objectively within walking distance to Marymount MRT station, providing seamless access to the Circle Line. In Singapore's property market, as you know, proximity to an MRT station is the ultimate insurance policy for value because even with the strict prime model restrictions and subsidy clawbacks, a unit here will likely remain a top choice for future buyers who prioritize a central location and easy commutes. Being a mega project also means it will establish its own strong price benchmark, making it a very safe bet for long-term capital preservation. On the other hand, the Ang Mo Kio Avenue 1 site might face the toughest competition when it comes to sell. Not only it is further away from the train station, which is about 1 kilometer away from Mayflower MRT station, but it also has a significant neighbor risk because it is located right next to Kebun Baru Edge, a BTO that was launched back in 2020. Because that neighbor was launched before the new Plus and Prime framework, those owners only subjected to 5-year MOP and there is no resale restrictions. When you are ready to sell your Plus flat in 10 years, you will be competing with some of the units there, I'm sure, which will indirectly impact your selling price later on. Meanwhile, the Ang Mo Kio Avenue 2 site sits in the middle. While it is technically 850 meters away from the MRT station, savvy residents can take a shortcut through existing HDB blocks to reach Mayflower MRT much faster, potentially giving it a hidden edge in convenience and resale appeal compared to its Avenue 1 counterpart. Now let's talk about the waiting time. For Ang Mo Kio Avenue 2, this project is the winner for speed because they are under the shorter waiting time program with keys expected to be given by early 2030. Meanwhile, for Bishan and Ang Mo Kio Avenue 1, these follow the standard timeline, which means that the development time is probably going to be between 4 to 5 years or even more, which means you can only collect keys maybe 2031 or 2032. Now, these are just my estimate. Of course, we need to wait for HDB official announcement to know when is the estimated completion time. But the waiting time do matters, especially if you are renting while waiting. So for example, if you are renting at $3,500 per month, waiting an extra 2 years for Bishan could cost you about $84,000 in rent. But of course, if you're still staying with your parents or your family, then it doesn't really matter that much beyond maybe the psychological toll. And then now let's talk about school options. For the Bishan BTO, it is relatively nearby Aitong, Catholic High and Raffles Institution, so it is prestigious, but competition for spots is famously fierce even for residents. For Ang Mo Kio Avenue 2, it is a stone's throw away from the CHIJ St. Nicholas Girls' School, and for parents with daughters, this is a massive strategic advantage for P1 registration. Now let's talk about the lifestyle and vibe. For Bishan BTO, the site is within walking distance to the Upper Thomson Food Stretch, where you can find different cafes, restaurants, etc., and also nearby Thomson Plaza. However, if you expect unblocked view towards the Makrichi Reservoir, unfortunately, you might be disappointed because even though the location for Bishan BTO is nearby the reservoir, however, there is this 34-story Lakeview estate blocks that will be blocking most of the reservoir views. Now for Ang Mo Kio, especially for Ang Mo Kio Avenue 1, it is located right next to the Bishan Ang Mo Kio Park, which is paradise for runners and dog owners. This would be suitable if you prefer an active lifestyle. So in summary, which one should you choose? Well, you can apply to Bishan if you want to live in a mature town and still within walking distance to an MRT station, and also if you have a higher budget. It is also suitable if you are a foodie who wants the Upper Thomson lifestyle. But you can apply to Ang Mo Kio if let's say you want to move in sooner and hoping that you can secure that Ang Mo Kio Avenue 2 site. It is also suitable if you have a daughter and want to admit your child to CHIJ St. Nicholas, or it is also suitable if you prefer an active lifestyle and want to stay near Bishan Ang Mo Kio Park. But either way, the competition for both towns, I assume, will be quite intense. So if let's say you are neutral between Bishan and Ang Mo Kio, one strategy would be to check the application rate on regular basis and then wait for the very last day before you commit. Basically, you just pick whichever town that has the lowest application rate because that would increase your chances to secure a flat. You can easily check the application rate either in HDB website or check out this channel because I typically discuss the data on day-to-day basis. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye. To support my work, you can give a one-time tip by pressing the thanks button, pick the amount that you want, and click buy and send. Or you can also press the join button for exclusive contents and monthly membership. Your support means a lot to keep us independent. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.